Sasha Sarah Abraham, magna cum laude, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Celine Ansara Alexandria Ali, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Amina Alec. Foraya Azar Babar, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Anchal Bajaj, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Bridget May Barrett, cum laude. Lorena Victoria Bejan. Renee J. Bennett, who will be hooded by her mentor, Joyce Reasonover, a 1992 graduate of the University of Detroit School of Law. Megan Lorraine Berkery, cum laude. Angelo Lorenzo Berlassi, Jr. Colin Birch, cum laude, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Jeffrey Patrick Blazoff. Alana Cynthia Buffa, magna cum laude. Jordan Luke Boyne, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Ashley M. Bakshin. Paige Elizabeth Bolin. Dean Bonadonna. Sarah Bonomo, cum laude. Sean Kenji Boucher. Tara Danielle Brin, who will be hooded by her mentor, Jennifer Gordon, a 1998 graduate of Detroit Mercy Law. Shantanique D. Brooks. Timothy A. Brooks, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Bryson Moore, who will be hooded by her mentor, Macy Tuiasosopo, a 2013 graduate of Detroit Mercy Law. Samantha Lee Buck, cum laude, who will be hooded by her mentor, Alicia Dyer, a 2001 Detroit Mercy Law graduate. Adam Easton Burt, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Andrew Allen Bush, cum laude. Christopher Patrick Samuel Butler. Brandon C. Bird, who will be hooded by his mentor, Robbie Gaines, a 2015 graduate of Detroit Mercy Law. Brittany Carmela Burns, magna cum laude. Maisha Jasmine Cole. Ahmad Christopher Shamsadine. Elena A. Shabani, cum laude. Bianca Josephine Grignano. Kristen Elizabeth Crowley, magna cum laude. Angelina Mary Dallow. Jillian Lindsay DeChavo. Peter Kenneth Durantz, who will be hooded by his father, Stephen Durantz, a 1987 graduate of the University of Detroit School of Law. Margarita Kevorkina, cum laude, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Sharif M. Dyer, who will be hooded by his mentor, Kim Kitchen, a 2009 graduate of Detroit Mercy Law. Sarah Hamzi El Helou. Roia Amalia Epps, who will be hooded by her mentor, the Honorable Denise Langford Morris, a 1982 graduate of the University of Detroit School of Law. Ilaria Maria Essick. Jamie C. Fergus, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Jessica Erin Finnegan, cum laude. James L. Frisch III. Stephanie Lane Ferlin, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Herman Singh Gill, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Brian Patrick Gilmorton, cum laude, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Rochelle Lynn Glisson, cum laude. Ray Gliana. Joseph Jakai. Veronica Lynn Walton Gorell, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. William Douglas Gross. Matt D. Grove. Garrett Michael Haddon II, magna cum laude. Corey Kevin Haynes, cum laude. Jewel May Haji, magna cum laude. Miriam Shifra Halimi. Denny Hamidovic, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Fatima A. Hamoud. Stephanie Rajmatia Hardawar, cum laude, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Esther Frances Harris, who will be hooded by her mother, Daphne Mathis Harris, a 1989 graduate of Detroit College of Law. Mustafa Nabil Hawili. Santana Elaine Hill, who will be hooded by her mentor, Ponce Clay, a 2015 graduate of Detroit Mercy Law. Holly Ann Hubert, who will be hooded by her uncle, Charles Deacon, a 1983 graduate of St. Mary's University School of Law. Eric S. Heidorn. Alec Michael Jobs. Alexandra Caroline Jockwick Welch, magna cum laude, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Deshanae Atia Jones, who will be hooded by her cousin, Chris Camper, a 2010 graduate of Detroit Mercy Law. Samir Charbel Karam. Stephanie Namir Castall, who will be hooded by her aunt, Nancy Castall, a 2015 graduate of Detroit Mercy Law. Matthew J. Keene, magna cum laude. Alice Lauren Carolian, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Keshava Ariel Kirkland, who will be hooded by her mentor, Vercadia Hall, a 2018 graduate of Detroit Mercy Law. Adam Martin Kroll. Elizabeth M. Kubera. Michelle Aduboni Kumar, cum laude, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Sanjay Dinesh Kumbhare, cum laude, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Lindsay Alon Lane, who will be hooded by her mentor, Macy Tuiasosopo, a 2013 grad of Detroit Mercy Law. Daniel Richard Latowski. Courtney Rose Lovett. Alexander Robert Stewart McMillan, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Patricia Lynn Mandernock. Jasmine Gurmit Mann, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Nicole Monique Hatcher McCoy. Khadija McFadden, cum laude. Parker Jonathan McKibben, cum laude, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Kyle William McNerney, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor, who will be hooded by his sister, Madison McNerney, a 2018 graduate of Detroit Mercy Law. Charu Mehta, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Morgan Claire Miles, who will be hooded by her uncle, Patrick Drake, a 1990 graduate of the University of Detroit School of Law. Stephanie L. Moore, cum laude. Adam Mortada. Amal Galeb Muzaiham. Sean Patrick Murphy, magna cum laude, who will be hooded by his mother, Martha Murphy, a 1996 graduate of Wayne State University Law. Chloe Nanfara, summa cum laude, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Malika Nakvi, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Sajiga Naveen Theraraja, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Patrick James O'Halloran. John T. Ozim. Hakeem K. Pack. Rochelle Ann Paresis. Hannah S. Parmar, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Dean Konstantin Paspalovsky, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Jake Pasner. Daniel Joseph Pepper, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Yvonne Pervin Keller, who will be hooded by his mother, Anne Marie Pervin, a 1991 graduate of the University of Detroit School of Law. Rebecca Claire Pilon, summa cum laude, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Alexander Popov. Hina Y. Purohit. Adam Benjamin Rakes, magna cum laude, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Rachel McKelvey Ratton, cum laude. Carly Elizabeth Reynolds, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Tina Marie Ripley, magna cum laude, who will be hooded by her cousin, Joseph Lupinacci, a 2010 graduate of Detroit Mercy Law. Erin Joy Rodenhouse, cum laude. Lamise Saab, cum laude. Janine Saba. Alicia Shoemaker, cum laude, who will be hooded by her mentor, Amanda Clunan, a 2015 graduate of Detroit Mercy Law. Ryan Michael Seams, who will be hooded by his mentor, Alicia Dyer, a 2001 Detroit Mercy Law graduate. Nancy M. Shaba, magna cum laude. Manats Shariati, cum laude, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Natalia Sheikh, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Michelle Emily Schember, cum laude. Maria Diana Shepard, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Elizabeth M. Siefker, magna cum laude. Kelsey Ann Sill. Kristen Madeline Slaney, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Jacob D. Slusky. Ryan Jacob Smith, cum laude, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Ariella Tyler Sierra Sohn, cum laude, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. George William Souls, magna cum laude, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Andrea Marlene Spear, cum laude, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Lance Thomas Spitzig, magna cum laude, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Christopher James Stone, magna cum laude. Michael Kavanaugh Tibbetts, who will be hooded by his mentor, Michael Reardon, a 1990 graduate of the University of Detroit School of Law. Andres Wyndham Villafani, who will also be hooded by Judge Reardon. Sarah Varani, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Daniil Yevgenievich Vishnyakov, cum laude. Jonathan Wiegand, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Paul Wilk Jr., magna cum laude. Jamesia Lucille Willingham, cum laude, who will be hooded by her mentor, Celeste Kinney, a 2018 graduate of Detroit Mercy Law. Spencer B. Withers, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor. Ethan Connor Welke, cum laude. Jessica Andrea Wong, also a candidate for the Juris Doctor degree from the University of Windsor.
Congratulations to all of our graduates. In just a moment, President Garibaldi will present the Student Mission Leadership Award. The Vivere Ex Missione Award, which means to live the mission, is presented to students who go beyond their academic and program requirements to live out the mission of Detroit Mercy. Every year, students, faculty, and staff are asked to recommend a graduating student who best exemplifies the mission of the university, both here on campus and in the outside community. This student has exemplified what St. Ignatius said, love shown more in deeds than words, by education of the whole person, service that leads to justice, recognition of the sacred in all, and community within diversity. A mission lamp is presented to recognize a student who has been a shining light, giving light to all around us. As the founder of the Sisters of Mercy, Catherine McCauley, said and exemplified throughout her life. I welcome President Garibaldi.
This year's recipient of the Vivere Ex Missione Living the Mission Award is Christopher Butler. Mr. Butler, would you please join me? You just stand there. Christopher Butler is what we mean when we say Detroit Mercy Law educates the complete lawyer. He has made an impact that will last far beyond the time he spent on our campus. In leadership positions at the School of Law and the national level, Christopher brought much-needed attention to the topic of law student mental health by helping to draft the nationwide pledge to destigmatize the depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues faced by many law students. The pledge, one of the first student-led efforts to draw attention to this issue, collected signatures of support from law school faculty, administrators, and students across the country. Christopher's service on the faculty hiring committee was invaluable, leading to the hiring of 3 outstanding faculty members, all persons of color. At national hiring conferences, he represented Detroit Mercy Law as the vibrant, dynamic environment that it is, and because of his work, the School of Law faculty will be more diverse and inclusive. As a student member of the American Bar Association, Christopher hosted a series of podcasts on the Legal Talk Network, discussing the importance of diversity in the legal profession, mental health, and well-being among law students, how to survive law school, and more. These conversations were as engaging as they were educational. It is for his commitment to inclusion and diversity, as well as his leadership and ability to bring people together for a common cause, that we honor Christopher Butler with the 2019 Vivere Ex Missione Award. Congratulations, Christopher.
Thank you, Dr. Garibaldi, and congratulations, Christopher Butler. Each year, the graduating class selects a student to lead the University of Detroit Mercy School of Law graduates in the prayer inspired by St. Thomas More. This year, the 2019 graduating class has selected Ms. Rioa Epps. Graduates, you will find this prayer in the scroll you just received. Please stand.
My fellow graduates, please repeat after me. Lord, grant that I may be able in argument, accurate in analysis, strict in study, candid with clients, and honest with adversaries. Sit with me at my desk and listen with me to my clients' plaints. Read with me in my library and stand beside me in court, so that today I shall not, in order to win a point, lose my soul. In your name, amen. God bless you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Ms. Epps. Thank you, graduates, for being seated. Each year, the graduating class selects a student to deliver remarks on behalf of the class. This year, the 2019 graduating class has selected Mr. Christopher Stone.
Dr. Garibaldi, members of the Board of Trustees, Provost Zarkowski, distinguished guests, Dean Crocker, friends, family, ladies and gentlemen, classmates, good evening. So I've come to realize that giving these remarks is a lot like taking one of my law school exams. I'm asked to say a lot of meaningful things in an impossibly short amount of time about things that I probably don't really understand. So I'll just hope for a favorable grading curve, and I may do okay. But nonetheless, the opportunity to spend these few moments speaking on behalf of the class is an incredible honor and truly humbling. How long is a moment? It's a reasonable time. So we did learn something in law school. But to be clear, it would be impossible for me or anyone else to truly speak to the law school experiences of such an exceptional and diverse group of people. We started this journey from different points of origin. We rose from different backgrounds, cultures, communities, beliefs. I even heard some people took the Windsor Tunnel to get here this evening, when it wasn't closed for construction, that is. And importantly, we arrived here with different weight on our shoulders. And because of that, our experiences are truly our own. For me, it's enough to say that I experienced the last few years of law school at a different stage of life than the bulk of the class. Previously, I spent a career in the Army, took a few lumps, lived to tell about it, and now here I am. A husband, a father, and yes, a grandfather. Hi, Livia. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will finally admit that in all these classes, that whenever a professor would say, now most of you are too young to remember this, I wasn't, and I probably did. Now, like all of us, I had my own motivations that brought me to this day. And one of those involved the location of the law school. And it's fitting on this Mother's Day, as Dr. Garibaldi so wonderfully introduced, to share why. You see, the law school stands in sight of a building where my mother, who I was unable to know in my adult life, worked as a processing clerk at a time when not many moms worked. And when I came to the school for the first time, I imagined she must have looked out her window at the hustle and bustle of law students and thought to herself, what if? What if for herself? What if for her children? And so my motivations and my experiences are certainly my own. And that's my experience, and I can't tell you about yours. But what I can speak to is this: the true richness and the value of this experience and this time we've spent at this school is not how we experienced law school alone as individuals. It's what happened when we came together in duos, in small groups, in large groups for a shared purpose. And sometimes that shared purpose was just to get through law school. That may have been purpose number one. But we learned that our hearts raced the same when our name was called at random, cold called in class. We shared frustration with one another when we couldn't figure out how ancient cases about captured foxes, beached whales, and lost brooches could tell you if you owned property today or not. Evidently it can. And we also stared blankly at the cursor on our screen as we struggled mightily to determine whether or not we should use there, for, or thus in that particular sentence to make it perfect. But so many other times we shared a greater purpose than our own grades. And that's the most important thing. And while we might not have always acted like it, friends and family, we know the world did not stop turning the day we started law school. Everything that happened here, it occurred with the backdrop of our lives and in the backdrop of our tumultuous times. And so in turn, we quickly applied our growing skills to the most important issues of our day. We worked with our faculty and one another to help the vulnerable, to provide access to justice. We affected the lives of real people in our internships and clerkships, in our clinics, in our law firms, in our agencies, and so many other settings that we chose. In our student groups and projects outside of school, we led and we served others, achieving many firsts, something you'll notice the moment you walk into the law school courtyard. That is appropriate. Everybody gets one appropriate clap. And together, we affected change. And for that, I'm proud to be in a company of such incredible people who will continue to lead and inspire our communities for years to come. Now, you might expect that this is the point in every basic student commencement speech where I'm going to say something like, the real world starts now. Well, to be sure, a lot of work is ahead of us, but we all know that nothing starts now. To use the words of Tyrion Lannister, we're in the great game now. And we also, to use a quote from Hamilton, if we're not in the room where it happens, we're sure getting close if we're knocking on that door. But the real challenge for us going forward is not to consider this moment closure at all. Rather, we remember the friendships and the understanding that we created at a time when we had the greatest shared purpose with one another. And I would challenge us to never stop searching for those shared purposes. In conclusion, thank you to the faculty, to the staff, and administration for your support, your guidance, and most of all, your patience. Thank you to the class for entrusting me with this reasonable moment. And finally, to everyone here tonight and elsewhere who could not be here, who supported us throughout this experience, please know that we could not have done it without you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. I invite Mr. Edward Lennon, class of 1988 and president of the School of Law's Alumni Association, to welcome today's graduates as alumni of the School of Law and the University of Detroit Mercy.
Thank you, Assistant Dean Peck. My brother counsel Joe Vernon, Dr. Garibaldi, trustees, Dean Crocker, faculty, staff, friends and family, and most importantly, graduates for whom these remarks are really intended. I am the current president of the Detroit Mercy Law Alumni Association. I just have a few remarks because I know I am between you and whatever celebration you have planned for this evening. For more than a century, Detroit Mercy Law graduates have achieved success as attorneys, political leaders, judges, prosecutors, corporate executives, and in other capacities. You have been blessed by the opportunities and education you have received at Detroit Mercy Law, and you have earned the right to call yourself a Detroit Mercy lawyer. With that right, however, comes responsibility. You have a responsibility to give back to your community, the friends and family that helped you get to this point, and of course, this law school. I urge you to contribute to the law school in some way to further the school's mission. Among other things, your degree is an asset. With your assistance, we can all enhance this asset and the law school in general. To reinforce this point, the Board of Directors of the Alumni Association, some of whom are also present here today, recently funded and announced the Detroit Mercy Law Alumni Board Endowed Scholarship Fund. Well, maybe sometime before you're in a position to contribute to efforts like this, there are many other resources, including your time and talent, you can contribute back to the school immediately. For the rest of your life, you will be representing Detroit Mercy Law School in all of your professional endeavors. Of course, this starts with bar exam preparation, and yes, I had to bring it up. For those of you fortunate enough not to work between now and taking the bar, preparing for the bar is your job. For those of you who are working, consider yourself to have 2 occupations between now and the bar exam. In your personal and professional lives, you will forever be a reflection of Detroit Mercy Law and the values and work ethic developed during your legal education. So, like Mr. Vernon, I have a few points. Mine are nowhere near as insightful as his, I'm sure. Number 1, silence your cell phone in court. That's an easy one. They get a little more difficult. Number 2, never be on time. Be early. Complete tasks prior to the assigned deadline. 3, never perform any task without doing it to the maximum of your ability and dedication. Start with an objective and more than fulfill it. 3, recognize what you don't know. We all experience well-founded moments of doubt, and you will overcome them, as Mr. Vernon said. Finally, conduct yourself with dignity and class. Display to the world at large that Detroit Mercy Law School graduates possess competence, intellectual honesty, compassion, and perseverance necessary to obtain positive results for society at large and your clients and employers specifically. You will be successful, however you define that term, if you fully utilize the skills you have developed over the last 3 to 4 years, and you utilize those skills in service to others. In closing, we are honored to have with us today a member of the class of 1969 who was previously mentioned before, a class which is celebrating the 50th anniversary of their graduation from the school. I ask that Fred Lauk stand to be recognized for his contribution to the legal profession. He's being recognized for both his contribution to the legal profession and dedication to the university and Detroit Mercy Law. Those of us who know Fred are deeply aware of his extreme passion for the law school and the practice of law. Fred is an accomplished, very successful trial lawyer, and those 2 words have deep meaning when it comes to Fred. He is also the author of 3 books, the most recent of which is The Fighting Irish of Detroit, Fighting in the Streets, Fighting in the Courts, a self-described publication. On behalf of the class of 1969 and all other alumni, we congratulate you, we welcome you to our ranks, and we look forward to working with you to ensure the continued success of this law school.
Thank you, Mr. Lennon. Thank you all for celebrating the class of 2019 with us. This concludes the University of Detroit Mercy School of Law commencement ceremony. The recession will be led by the President and Chair of the Board of Trustees, the Dean of the School of Law, trustees and vice presidents of the university, and our distinguished alumni. The faculty and administration of the School of Law and our 50th anniversary class are asked to follow. The 2019 graduates and their families and guests follow the faculty marshals. Please remain seated until all of the graduates leave Callahan Hall. Thank you and God bless.